The Sovereign Ring of Olorun, Book 1, Crown of Cosmos, Chapter 1, Coronation of Queen Adia.
The grand hall of Tanga's royal palace was alight with thousands of floating candles, casting gentle glow on faces filled with both awe and anxiety. At the centerpiece of this magnificent ceremony stood Queen Adia, dressed in traditional royal regalia, adorned with galaxy symbols, an ensemble meant to evoke the majesty of the cosmos. Despite the grandeur, a discerning eye could capture the subtle tremor in her hands and the slight stiffening of her posture as she faced the throne that had once been her father's. The royal chamber echoed with the synchronized beats of the ancient drums, each rhythm a reminder of continuity of tradition that now rested heavily on Adia's shoulders. The high priest, a venerable figure adorned in celestial blue robes, extended the scepter toward her, a symbol of cosmic order and authority.
Queen Adia, daughter of the late King Akon, do you solemnly swear to uphold the celestial laws inscribed by our ancestors, to govern with wisdom and protect this galaxy from the upheavals foretold?
His voice boomed, resonating off the marble columns. Her response was a rehearsed whisper.
I do.
The words floated over the assembly, as light and delicate as air itself, yet heavy with the burden they carried. A murmur ripped through the crowd. Nobles, dignitaries, and planetary representatives, witnesses to the transition of power in a time of brewing cosmic storms, as prophesied in the ancient Zivo Celestial Codex. Adia could feel their eyes burning into her, analyzing her every move, every flicker of doubt. As the crown was set upon her head, a slight, almost imperceptible clink of the ornate metal was enough to snap her back to the moment. It was heavier than she had anticipated, its weight a tangible reminder of her new responsibilities. Her father had worn it with an ease born of certainty and strength, qualities Adia feared she might never fully embody.
Why do you doubt?
She pondered internally, her gaze sweeping over the sea of faces beneath her.
Can they see my fear, my hesitance?
No sooner had the coronation rites concluded than a low rumble shook the hall. Confused whispers swelled as the ancient crystal fixtures trembled, casting eerie dancing shadows across the high stone walls. Adia's first instinct was to search for Isan Remi, her father's old advisor. His face, usually an unreadable mask, now showed clear signs of concern. This was no ordinary disturbance. It was a signal, a herald of the cosmic disturbances foretold in the very codex her father had devoted his life to studying. Standing tall, despite the fear gnawing at her insides, Adia addressed the assembly, her voice carrying a strength she did not feel.
Let us be steadfast. We stand together, united under the stars that guide us. We will face whatever comes as one.
As the crowd erupted in supportive cheers, Adia couldn't shake off the gnawing feeling of inadequacy. Would she be able to navigate the tumultuous times predicted by the Codex? Was her resolve enough to follow in the footsteps of her revered father? These questions swelled in her mind as the echoes of the ancient drums faded into a foreboding silence that seemed to envelope not just Tanga, but potentially the entire galaxy.
Chapter 2, The Celestial Disturbance.
As the last echoes of applause died down and the assembly began to disperse, the respite was brief. The palace's ancient stone walls suddenly shuddered as if gripped by an unseen force, sending another wave of uneasy murmurs through the crowd. Above, the ethereal ceiling fresco depicting Olorun's cosmic tapestry flickered strangely, its stars trembling in the painted sky. Adia's heart raced. This was not the usual minor terrors of a restless universe. The fresco's disturbance hinted at a phenomenon she had only read about in the Zivo Celestial Codex, a mysterious artifact whose prophetic messages were known only to the Sovereign Ring, and seemingly whispered tales of cosmic fabric bending in disarray.
"Remain calm, please,"
Adia called out, her voice striving for steadiness. Despite her command, the assembly turned chaotic, with nobles and dignitaries clambering for exits, faces etched with panic and uncertainty. Remi quickly moved to her side, eyes mirroring the gravity of the situation.
"Your Highness, the Codex spoke of such events. This might well be the stirrings of the perturbations foreseen."
Adia nodded gravely, her mind racing. This was her first trial as queen, a challenge sewn within the very threads of the stars.
Remi, gather the Sovereign Ring,"
she instructed, her voice laden with command.
"We must consult the Codex immediately. Every second is precious."
Outside, celestial phenomena worsened. The skies darkened as though night had overtaken day, and sporadic flashes of mysterious light pierced the shadows, casting surreal dances across the palace grounds. Whispers of ancient prophecies sipped through the crowds, ominous foretelling woven within the Codex, hinting at both upheaval and rebirth. Ushering the council members into the chamber, Adia guided them into a circular room decorated with engravings of historical calms and storms, where decisions predestined were chiseled into Tanga's living memory. The Zivo Celestial Codex, steeped in enigma and power, awaited, a shifting relic revealing its wisdom selectively to those deemed ready by Olorun's distant hand. The members, a mix of semi-divine monarchs and custodians of galactic wisdom, assembled around the grand table, their faces maps of concern and expectation. Remi gently laid the Codex before them, a book that was more than mere paper and ink, alive with unexplained technology and knowledge barely grasped.
"Here,"
Remi pointed out, turning pages marked by star sigils, ever evolving across eras.
"The alignment of shadows, the fall of light, the tremors, all are echoed here as meetings of the Shadow Era, a time fraught with upheaval but intertwined with potential for rebirth."
The room held its breath, each member caught in contemplation of prophecy and possibility. Adia, positioned at the helm, felt their gazes and the shared weight of destiny. She understood this moment was about more than reassurance. It was acknowledgement of the legacy she bore, a sovereign responsible not solely for her world, but the fabric of celestial unity.
"We confront a challenge woven deep amongst the stars,"
she declared, a renewed resolve infusing her words.
"And much like the cosmic bodies that journey through the dark, so shall we navigate through these enigmas. We will decipher the Codex, standing together, guided by the wisdom anointed in its ancient whispers."
Adia's words rallied her council, solidifying their resolve. A galaxy congregated under the rising power of a nascent queen, poised to face the mysteries and revelations the stars dared to tell.
Chapter 3: Zivo Codex.
As the council dispersed to prepare for their respective tasks, Adia and Remi remained behind in the still and solemn council chamber, where the weighty Zivo Celestial Codex laid open between them on a grand table. The echoes of earlier debates had faded, leaving a heavy silence which mirrored the anxiety swirling within Adia.
"Your Highness, if I may,"
Remi began, choosing his words with care.
"The Codex offers not just predictions, but guidance. Our ancestors understood not just the celestial movements, but the heartbeats of their people. Perhaps, as we decipher these signs, we should also consider—"
Adia interrupted, her voice crisp and authoritative.
"We will follow the Codex as it is laid out, Remi. It is how my father would have acted. Now is not the time for philosophical musings, but for decisive actions. We need to stabilize our realm, focus on our resources, and brace the military for any scenario. We must rule through firm measures.
Despite the flicker of concern in Remi's eyes, which Adia noted but didn't acknowledge, she held position resolute. She had watched her father govern with uncompromising strength that secured their kingdom. This wasn't the time to question those methods, even if a small voice within her wondered about her people's muted concerns. Accepting her decision, Remi offered a slight nod.
Of course, Your Majesty. Shall we delve into the specific alignments and constellations? They might give us clearer insights into the extent and timing of these disturbances.
Together, they pored over the codex, with Adia tracing the ancestral maps carved into centuries-old parchment. The complex symbols merged astronomical with mystical wisdom, speaking of cosmic forces and alignments rarely visible to the untrained eye.
Here,
Adia noted, pointing to a rare celestial configuration aligning their galaxy's central sun with distant stars, predicted to occur within weeks.
These could exacerbate the cosmic disturbances. We need to inform the observatories. They must ramp up surveillance immediately.
Remi, sounding more concerned, pointed to text written in shimmering silver ink.
Here, my queen. It talks about the veil of shadows, a phenomenon potentially cloaking our senses and communications. The Codex depicts a balance between light and dark, fear and assurance, saying it has to be tread with care.
Adia absorbed Remi's caution.
We must notify the technological guilds to bolster our defenses against this veil, but remind them, too, the public must not be unnecessarily alarmed. Order and calm are paramount in uncertain times.
As they studied the codex further, Adia felt the weight of her decisions bear down heavily. Her father's remembered strength guided her. Still, whispers of doubt ghosted at the edges of her confidence. Was she truly upholding his power? Or was she masking her own insecurity behind a facade of unyielding authority?
Chapter 4.
First Signs of Unrest. Adia and Isan Remi walked through the grand corridors of the palace, their steps echoing lightly on the ancient tiles. As they passed large open windows, Adia paused to observe her kingdom's capital sprawled beneath the twilight. From above, the orderly movement of the city's inhabitants reflected a superficial calm, but the undercurrents of unease were palpable, even at this distance. They descended the marble stairs to the vibrant marketplace at the city's core, a place usually bustling with commerce and laughter. Now it held a different atmosphere. Market vendors huddled together, their tones hushed and gestures anxious, as they discussed the recent celestial disturbances and the Queen's stern response. The presence of additional royal guards intended to reassure seemed only to heighten the tension. As Adia walked through the marketplace escorted by a few discreet guards, the conversations quickly died down. Eyes followed her, some filled with respect, but too many shadowed with fear and doubt. A brave old fabric seller met Adia's gaze, her voice trembling but firm.
Your Majesty, will there be more trouble from the stars? My son is just a farmer. He knows nothing of stars and shadows.
Adia fixed a reassuring smile, though she felt none of its warmth.
Fear not. We are prepared to handle whatever may come. The royal astronomers and the mystics are consulting the Zivo Celestial Codex as we speak. All measures are being taken to ensure the safety of Tanga.
Her words were meant to console, but the murmurs that followed her departure spoke of continued doubts, whispers of,
like her father, all iron and no ear for the heart,
floated back to her ears, stinging more sharply than she cared to admit. Making her way back to the palace, Adia felt the eyes of her people upon her. She had always envisioned this aspect of queenship differently. She thought she'd be a beacon of strength and assurance, yet she wondered now if her reflection in their eyes was that of a ruler or that of an oppressor. In the royal study, news from the other cities began to arrive, each report adding layers of worry. Written pleas from local leaders requested delicate handling of public fears, suggesting town meetings for reassurance or even a public address from the Queen. Adia leaned over the maps and missives sprawled before her. The symbols of unrest were there, not overt rebellion, but a clear, growing dissent. She contemplated the requests for more open communication, each one a veiled critique of her current methods.
Perhaps.
Adia's voice trailed off as she considered for a painful moment. She thought of her youth, of the stories told by citizens freely speaking in town forums, a practice her father had slowly stifled. Lifting her head, she made a decision she hoped would not undermine the authority she fought so hard to establish.
Arrange a meeting, she instructed her aide. A public audience, tomorrow at noon in the central square. If it is their hearts we are losing, then it is their hearts we must speak to.
As her orders were carried out, Adia mused on the delicate balance she was trying to maintain between the firm hand inherited from her father and the softer touch that the whispers of her people seemed to plead for. The path ahead shimmered uncertainty, like the stars whose troubles had precipitated her own.
Chapter 5. Jaya's manipulations begin.
As the palace prepared for the Queen's upcoming public audience, Jaya, shrewd and observant, sensed the rippling undercurrents of unease within the High Council. Her role as a senior council member, combined with the charismatic yet insidious nature, placed her in the unique position to exploit the situation to her advantage. In the opulent council chamber, under the guise of concern, Jaya initiated her subtle manipulations. The walls, lined with historical tapestries of Tanga's glorious past, felt like silent witnesses to her scheme as she spoke in low, urgent tones to a group of influential council members.
I fear for our queen and our kingdom,
she began, her voice threaded with a feigned worry that sounded convincingly sincere.
Our young ruler is undoubtedly brave, but bravery alone cannot steady a sky in turmoil or calm a populace in fear. Her methods, they are her father's, but are they right for us now?
Her words found a fertile ground, though many in the council harbored doubts. Voicing such concerns was taboo, not least because of the profound respect many held for the late king. Yet Jaya's stature and her careful phrasing allowed these thoughts to surface, cloaked in a veil of loyalty and concern for the realm.
Yes, her approach does seem rigid,
murmured one councillor, a veteran in the political arena, yet prone to influence.
And this planned meeting in the square, is it wisdom or a mere showcasing? Is it the transparency we need or a risk too great with the stars themselves in disarray?
Jaya nodded, her eyes flickering with a calculated intensity as she added,
Transparency is vital, but so is perception of our strength. Her decision to open herself up in this manner, it could be perceived as weakness. In such times as these, perceptions forge as much reality as truth.
Outside the council chamber, she continued her discussions in quieter corners and along the shadowed, ancient walkways of the palace. Each word and pause meticulously placed, she met with those whose faith in Adia's leadership wavered, bolstering their doubts, while positioning herself as merely a voice of reason amidst the fear she was all too skilled at fanning. Jaya's influence was not merely about seeding doubt, but weaving a network of uncertainty that could, when the moment was ripe, shift the balance of power towards someone more capable. Her ambitions were masked under layers of apparent devotion to the kingdom, making her manipulations difficult to discern and even harder to counter. As night draped over the palace, windows gleamed with the light of 1,000 stars, mirroring the turmoil veiled beneath the surface calm of the court. Jaya stood by a balcony, looking out over the dimly lit gardens, a small, satisfied smile touching her lips. In the dance of the shadows and light, she felt a kinship with the evening stars, remote, mysterious, influencing the tides of fate from afar. Her plotting cemented the foundation for a palace intrigue that could very well dictate the future of Tanga. Adia, with her earnest efforts and youthful ideas, was unknowingly walking into a maelstrom, not just of celestial origins, but of human making, stirred by Jaya's deft hands.
Chapter 6. The Ghost of King's Legacy.
Late that night, long after the corridors of the palace had fallen silent, Queen Adia retreated to a lesser-known chamber housed deep within the palace's ancient stone walls. It was a sanctuary of silence, save for the soft hum of the advanced mechanism that lay at its heart. This was the Chamber of Essences, a sacred space housing the digital spirits, AI constructs of Tanga's former rulers. Here, the past was not just remembered, it was interacted with. The weight of her interactions earlier in the day with the council and the citizens pressed heavily on Adia. Desperate for guidance, she approached the luminescent panel that now flickered to life, revealing a visage of her father, King Akon. The AI's deep familiar voice filled the room, resonating with the authority and assurance that had characterized his reign.
Adia, my daughter.
The digital echo of her father began, its eyes seemingly looking into her soul.
You seem troubled. What burdens weigh on your heart?
With a deep inhale, Adia responded, her voice a blend of reverence and desperation.
Father, the kingdom stirs with unrest, and the skies themselves seem to conspire against us. I've tried to wield your strength to rule with the firm hand you entrusted to me, but I fear it's not enough.
The AI, a perfect replica of King Akon's wisdom, processed her concerns with a thoughtful silence before responding.
Strength is vital, Adia, but it must be the bedrock for wisdom. Remember, true strength adapts. It does not merely enforce. The cosmos demands balance, and so do the hearts of our people. But how can I balance this legacy of power with the whispers of change? How did you manage to keep the kingdom stable?
Adia's voice cracked silently under the strain of her doubts. King Akon's avatar, analyzing years of data and psychological profiles, responded in a tone that mixed nostalgia with instructive clarity.
I did what I believed was necessary for the times, but each era brings new challenges, Adia. Perhaps what worked for me might not be what works now. Look to the stars, yes, but also listen to the heartbeat of Tanga. Let both guide you.
The conversation with her father's AI essence continued, delving into realms of governance, philosophy, and personal doubts. Yet, as Adia conversed with the technological spectre of her father, she felt the weight of expectation clash with her personal convictions. The counsel received was invaluable, but it was also rooted in a past that felt increasingly distant from the present challenges. Exiting the chamber as the first hints of dawn touched the sky, Adia felt a complex mix of empowerment and isolation. Her father's digital legacy offered a pillar of support, yet it also cast a long shadow, one that defined her reign, perhaps too rigidly. As she walked back to her private quarters, the queen reflected on her father's parting words: balance, adaptation, listening. Could she forge her path, one that respected the past yet embraced the demands of the present? Driven by these reflections, Adia knew that her upcoming public appearance would be more than a simple reassurance to her people. It would be a declaration of her evolution as a ruler, a final real step out of her father's shadow and into the light of her own making.
Chapter 7. Minor Rebellion.
As the early morning light spilled over the streets of Tanga's capital, the city awakened to bustling activity and rising tensions. Word of the increased commodity prices had spread quickly, fueled by the destabilizing cosmic events. In the central square, voices rose in anger and despair, a crowd gathering, spurred on by fears of scarcity and upheaval.
"Hear us, Queen Adia,"
shouted a laborer from the front of the burgeoning crowd, his face set in lines of earnest distress.
"We cannot feed our families with promises of stability while our bellies and purses empty by the day."
The protest grew louder, the air thick with chants and pleas for intervention. The disturbance caught Adia's attention just as she was preparing for her public address later that day. Though still wrestling with her doubts from the night's consultation with her father's essence, Adia knew she could not appear weak or indecisive, especially not with the whispers of dissent that Jaya had been stoking amongst the High Council. Determined to restore order swiftly, Adia's response was immediate and severe. She ordered the royal guard to disperse the assembly, emphasizing the need for a strong show of authority.
"We cannot allow unrest to shake the foundations of our rule,"
she declared, her voice echoing her father's resolute tone more than ever. The guards, clad in gleaming armor, marched into the square with strict orders. Their approach was disciplined but intimidating, shields and batons at the ready. As they pushed through the crowd, their methodical movements turned forceful. Shouts of protest were met with unyielding resistance. A laborer who tried to stand his ground was swiftly detained, his cries muffled as he was pulled away. The confrontation, though brief, left a chill in the air, more palpable than the lingering morning dew. The square quickly emptied, the remaining whispers tinged with shock and a burgeoning resentment. This iron-fisted handling of the protest was effective in restoring immediate order, but it also sowed deep seeds of discord amongst the citizens. The spectacle did not go unnoticed by Jaya, who observed from the distance, her eyes gleaming with a calculated light. Later, at the Royal Council meeting, the room buzzed with mixed reactions. While some praised Adia's decisiveness, others, like Councillor Amina, voiced concern.
"Your Majesty,"
Amina began, her tone respectful yet firm,
"while order is paramount, might we be at risk of ruling through fear rather than respect? Such actions could drive a wedge between us and those we serve."
Adia listened, her expression unreadable. The councillor's words echoed the silent question that had haunted her since her interaction with her father's essence. Was she indeed embracing the strength of her lineage, or was she mistaking rigidity for resolve? Fighting the insecurities these thoughts evoked, Adia maintained her stance.
"Thank you, Councillor Amina, for your insight,"
Adia responded coolly.
"However, in times of cosmic turbulence, a firm hand is needed to steer the ship. We must thus prioritize order to prevent chaos. Fear is an unfortunate but temporary necessity."
Her words, meant to convey strength, left a lingering unease in the council chamber, reflective of the discomfort settling in her own heart. As Adia retreated from the meeting, the inner conflict between her desire for a beloved ruler's respect and the harsh necessities dictated by her inherited legacy continued to grow, marking a profound moral and ethical crossroads in her young reign.
Chapter 8. Dialogue with a Dissenter.
In the wake of the council meeting, Queen Adia decided to inspect the royal detention area where the protesters from the morning's upheaval were being held. Her pace was measured, each step broadcasted her royal authority, but her mind was tumultuous, clouded by the moral implications of her recent actions. As she entered the dimly lit detention hall, the air heavy with a palpable sense of despair and defiance, her eyes met those of a young man, barely of age, yet his gaze did not waver. His youthful face bore the traces of the morning's conflict, a bruise darkening his cheek and a resolve hardening his eyes. He stood up as she approached, shackles clinging softly, a reminder of the force used against him.
"Why are you doing this?"
he asked straightforwardly, his voice devoid of fear but full of genuine curiosity.
"You are our queen, meant to protect and understand us. Why turn against us when we most need your ears and empathy?"
Adia paused, taken aback. His tone contained no accusation, but only puzzled disappointment.
"I am maintaining order,"
she replied, the practiced defense sounding weaker in the cramped, shadowed space between the bars.
"Without it, we risk descending into chaos amidst these cosmic upheavals. But is it order or obedience you impose?"
The young man countered quietly.
"People are scared, not just of the skies, but now also of speaking out. If fear is what keeps us in line, are we truly your people? Or just subjects of your power?"
His words struck a chord deep within Adia, echoing the silent debates that had haunted her since her coronation. Order has been her mantra, a legacy handed down by her father, a ruler praised for his control and strength. Yet the young man's words painted a different picture, one of a reign shadowed by fear. Taking a moment to compose herself, she knelt down to his level, her expression softening.
"Tell me your name,"
she requested, not as a queen to her subject, but as one individual to another.
"Miko,"
he responded, his posture relaxing slightly, recognition of her humanity in his eyes.
"Miko, I hear your concerns,"
Adia admitted, a rare vulnerability creeping into her voice.
"Help me understand better. What do you, the people, need from me in these trying times?"
Miko looked surprised at her response, but he recovered quickly.
"We need assurance, not through force, but through visibility and dialogue. Show us that you are with us, not above us."
Adia listened, each word from Miko planting seeds of a profound revelation within her. Perhaps the strength of a ruler was not measured by how much fear they could instill, but by how much trust they could foster. As she stood to leave, her heart was heavy, but her mind was clear with a new resolve.
"Thank you, Miko, for your honesty. I will consider your words deeply,"
she assured him, and meant it. Exiting the detention hall, the echo of her steps melded with the echo of Miko's words in her heart. This encounter, though brief, had ignited a crucial spark of introspection regarding her leadership. A transformative contemplation had begun, a re-evaluation of the iron-fisted legacy she inherited versus the empathetic rule she might yet forge.
Chapter 9. Remi's Word of Caution.
Returning from the detention hall with her thoughts in turmoil, Adia headed straight to her private study. There she found Isan Remi waiting, his presence as steady and constant as ever. The old advisor's face wore an expression of concern that seemed to reflect his anticipation of the internal conflict Adia was enduring.
"Your Majesty,"
Remi began, his voice as calm and measured as the flow of a gentle river.
"I have been reflecting on the teachings of our ancestors, the rulers whose wisdom has transcended the ages, not just through force, but through compassion and understanding.
Adia, still processing her conversation with Miko, nodded for him to continue, welcoming the diversion from her own spiraling thoughts.
There was Queen Leora, who ruled during the time of mists,
Remi encountered, his eyes distant as if visualizing the past before him.
Her reign was marked by environmental upheavals, much like we face today with these cosmic disturbances. Yet her legacy was not defined by how she silenced dissent, but how she embraced it.
Remi paused, ensuring Adia was absorbing the gravity of his words.
She held weekly forums with her people, not to dictate, but to listen. And in listening, she found not only the heart of her people's woes, but innovative solutions that a secluded monarch would never have considered.
Adia, moved by the tale, felt the edges of her resolve softening.
And you believe I should take a similar path?
She inquired, the weight of responsibility and the desire to do right by her people making her voice falter slightly.
I believe, my queen, the strength in leadership is multifaceted,
Remi advised softly.
Yes, assertiveness is necessary, but so is empathy, especially when the skies themselves seem to turn against us.
Adia considered his words deeply. The relationship between her and Remi had always been one of mutual respect, but in this moment she felt a deeper connection, an acknowledgement of his wisdom and a sincere gratitude for his guidance. Her eyes, reflecting a mix of appreciation and renewed determination, met his.
Listen, Remi, I'm fortunate to have your counsel. It seems I have much to think about in how I choose to navigate these troubled times,
she admitted, letting down the barriers that often existed between monarch and advisor.
Your heart is true, Queen Adia,
Remi responded, affirming her introspection with a supportive smile.
And it will guide you well. Remember, the people do not just look to you for direction. They look for a reflection of themselves. Show them understanding, and they will walk with you through any darkness these cosmic events may bring.
With Remi's words echoing in her ears, Adia felt a shift within her. A turning point that promised a reign touched by the wisdom of the past, but forged with the vision of the future. Leaving the study, she felt less burdened than before, not because her challenges were any less daunting, but because she recognized that the strength of a ruler lay in the balance of power and grace. In this recalibration of her leadership approach, Adia was not merely the heir of her father's throne, but a thoughtful leader shaping her own legacy, one of resilience tempered with empathy.
Chapter 10. Jaya's Deception.
The day had barely yielded to the cool envelope of evening when another cosmic anomaly struck, a sudden eerie darkening of the sky that sent a ripple of panic across Tanga. Under the swift guidance of Queen Adia, teams of astronomers and mystics worked together to implement measures that mitigated the anomaly's effects, restoring the natural order of the heavens much quicker than before. The kingdom, though still on edge, breathed a collective sigh of relief as normalcy returned. In the aftermath, as Adia reviewed reports in her office, Jaya entered, her demeanor a blend of urgency and supposed loyalty.
Your Majesty, you handled the situation with great acumen,
she began, her voice oozing sincerity.
However, not all share my sentiment.
Adia, still focused on the reports, looked up.
Explain,
she demanded succinctly, a slight edge to her tone, born of lingering stress from the day's crisis. Jaya moved closer, her expression one of reluctant disclosure.
It pains me to say this, but I have heard whispers, troubling ones, a close ally, whom, out of respect, I shall not name at this juncture, has voiced a rather stark opinion. They suggest that your rule might be insufficiently experienced for the severity of these cosmic disruptions. They are considering rallying for a more seasoned leader to take the throne.
Adia felt as though the ground had shifted beneath her. Doubt, like a dark whisper, threaded through her thoughts. Her command, which had just successfully quelled a major disturbance, suddenly seemed insignificant in light of Jaya's words.
Jaya, do you believe this to be a widely shared view?
Adia asked, masking the cold shiver of doubt with a composed exterior. Jaya feigned a hesitant pause, as if wrestling with her loyalty.
My queen, it is perhaps not widespread, but the fact that it exists at all among those close to you is cause for concern. In these trying times, perception is as important as reality. A leader unchallenged in their position is crucial for maintaining public confidence.
The seed of paranoia planted, Jaya observed with a hidden pleasure, the subtle stiffening of Adia's posture, an indicator of her inner turmoil. Adia, however, took a deep breath, summoning her resolve. She remembered Remi's lessons on balance and the connection she'd felt with her populace earlier that day.
Jaya, thank you for bringing this to my attention,
Adia responded, her voice steady despite the storm of emotions within.
I will consider this matter carefully.
After Jaya had left, Adia sat back, her thoughts a tangled maze. Could she really trust the allies she thought she had? Was her leadership truly in question? Moments like these demanded more than just reactive measures. They required deep, strategic thought. The choice was hers: succumb to the paranoia and potentially become the oppressor her father had been in the later years, or forge a path of openness and reform that she had just begun to envision, a path that might just redefine her reign and legacy. Drawing upon the resolve she had nurtured under Remi's mentorship and the courage she'd seen in her people's eyes, Adia started to outline a response, one that would address the whispers of dissent and reaffirm her commitment to leading Tanga through both transparency and strength, a dual approach that could possibly quiet the doubts while solidifying her rule.
Chapter 11: Adia's New Resolve.
The midnight bells toll softly through the halls of the royal palace, an indication of the hour when most slept, yet Queen Adia found herself wide awake, contemplating the future of her reign from within the warmth of her study. Shadows flickered gently on the stone walls from the dim candlelight, casting shapes that mirrored her swirling thoughts. The encounter with Jaya had left an ache of doubt within her heart, a reminder of the fragile nature of power and the spectral politics that always linger just out of sight. But it was the voices of Miko, Remi, and the citizens echoing in her mind that she turned to, rather than the seeds of fear Jaya hoped to implant. Seated before her lay the Zivo Celestial Codex, its thick pages filled not only with prophecies but layers of wisdom that had guided generations. As both a ruler and a daughter of its heritage, Adia felt an urgent pull to seek answers it might hold, answers that could guide her transition from her father's harsh methods to a rule more attuned to empathy and collective strength. Taking a deep breath, Adia opened the codex, turning past familiar passages that she had practically memorized. Instead, she sought those pages she had ignored, ones that focused not on dominance but on unity. Her fingers found the edges of one such section, delicately adorned with the emblem of the encompassing star, a symbol of unity and connectivity. As she read, the text reminded her of the value and power found in shared strength and how rulers who had faced similar trials embraced not just their authority, but their unique capacity to unify. One such passage spoke of a storied queen who had confronted similar cosmic upheavals and persistent challenges to her rule. Rather than rallying solely on the strength of her command, she had empowered her people, inviting their ideas and compassions, thereby weaving a tighter net of security than force alone could ever achieve. Adia absorbed these lessons, the midnight quietude contributing to her realization that her reign was not just about preserving past glories or exercising inherited power. It was about leading into an illuminated future that encompassed the strengths of every individual she governed. Realigning herself with this revelation, Adia stood, the knowledge mingling with a fresh determination surging through her. She could feel the considerable weight of being a ruler, but it was tempered now by the infinite potential she had glimpsed through the accounts within the Codex. Tomorrow, she vowed, would mark the beginning of a different rule, a step closer to being not just a queen cast in her father's image, but a beacon of unity for Tanga's future. The poignant lessons wrapped within the Codex's ancient pages would become the foundation of her reformed leadership approach. As she gently closed the tome, Adia embraced the new path she had chosen, her mind clearer and filled with a resolve that reached beyond guarding the kingdom's legacy to redefining it with each thoughtful step she would take. With a steady heart and a renewed vision, Adia emerged from the shadows into what dawn would soon reveal.
Chapter 12: Gathering of Allies.
As dawn cast its golden light across the horizon, it illuminated the majestic towers of the palace on Tanga, where preparations were underway for an unprecedented summit of planetary leaders. Queen Adia, dressed in regal azure, took her place at the head of a grand circular table in the main council hall, the chamber hum alive with anticipation and tentative alliances. The room buzzed with the presence of esteemed leaders from neighboring planets, each representing diverse cultures, yet facing the shared challenges of cosmic disruptions. Adia felt their eyes upon her, some gleaming with hope for strong leadership, others shadowed with skepticism, carefully sown by Jaya's subtle manipulations.
Greeting you all here marks a pivotal moment for us all,
Adia began, her voice strong and infused with newfound clarity.
In these times of celestial turmoil, it is vital that we stand not as separate worlds within the galaxy, but united in purpose and strength.
Several nods around the table hinted at cautious approval, though a current of doubt ripped through a corner where delegates of Efe of Zurian and Danai of Otheria sat. Efe, his skepticism worn plainly as a shield, leaned forward, his voice questioning yet respectful.
The proposal of unity is commendable, yet Her Majesty must understand our reservations,
he remarked carefully.
Many of us here have been dealing with these issues, using means tailored for our worlds. What can be the guarantee that a singular approach, your approach, is truly in our best interest and not an assertion of imperial influence?
The hall quieted at the challenge, eyes flickering between Adia and her interlocutor, awaiting her response. The tension of the moment thickened as Adia weighed her words carefully, knowing this was her moment to demonstrate her willingness to listen, and hers were not merely hollow promises of cooperation.
Delegate Ife,
Adia addressed him directly, her gaze sincere.
I do not stand before you to impose my will, but to propose our collective wisdom as a guide to navigate these uncertain skies. Let our unique strengths combine. The Zivo Celestial Codex itself speaks of such an era, an opportunity for each of us to bring our essence to the table.
Further down the table, Danai of Othria, who had initially held reservations precisely because of Jaya's whispers, caught the sincerity in Adia's demeanor. Encouraged, she offered a nod of subtle support, her own defenses beginning to soften.
Perhaps true resilience lies in shared purpose. Your Highness, your openness to collaboration intrigues and could ease our growing fears if managed well.
In response to this growing unity, Adia presented plans for shared scientific and mystical resources, urging acknowledgement of not only unique planetary strategies, but the broader potential they collectively harbored against cosmic adversities. Simultaneously, Jaya, still present but observing with a hidden frown, detected the shift in the room's atmosphere, a solidification of trust between the Queen and the leaders, despite her previous attempts to divide. The dialogue that followed turned increasingly constructive, similar to a symphony finding harmony after initial discordance. Delegates proposed cross-planetary councils, collective knowledge sharing, and cohesive monitoring of cosmological signs. As the summit proceeded, bridges began subtly forming, a promising architecture of alliance in defiance of isolationist whispers. As the summit came to a close, Adia felt the warmth of progress envelop the chamber. Though challenges yet lay ahead, the gathering marked a considerable stride towards transformation, a galactic unity of her leaders, perceptions, and most poignantly of her own conception of leadership.
Chapter 13.
Jaya's plot thickens. As the twilight shadows stretched their fingers across the galaxy, within the cloistered quarters known only to a select few, Jaya slipped quietly from the grandeur of Tanga's palace. She moved deftly through the labyrinthine passages beneath the city, arriving at a secluded chamber hidden under layers of secrecy, where her true intentions simmered like a cauldron kept over close to boiling over. The room was dimly lit, a stark contrast to the elaborate radiance of the summit held above. Here, the air was too still, as if holding its breath for the potent conspiracies to come. At the chamber's heart stood the Veil Walkers, enigmatic figures veiled not just by darkness, but by the very weave of the mystic cloaks they wore, whose presence seemed to distort the reality around them.
So, you finally made it.
A voice emerged from beneath the closest hood, a chilling tone blending curiosity with the thrust of an unsheathed dagger.
Indeed,
replied Jaya, slipping effortlessly into her role as the negotiator of treachery. Her own voice was honeyed but bore the undercurrent of a storm unleashed.
Queen Adia's unity strategy presents challenges to certain ambitions, ones I presume align with your capabilities.
The Veil Walkers had been monitoring the cosmic disturbances, biding their time to use the chaos to maneuver themselves into pivotal positions of power. Jaya knew their potential and was intent on harnessing it for her designs.
Our interests may indeed align,
the leader of the Veil Walkers intoned, leaning into the flickering shadows.
But what exactly do you propose, and what do you offer?
A wiry smile crept across Jaya's face, her strategic mind ablaze with possibilities.
With your mastery of the cosmic energies, amplified perhaps by escalated anomalies, you continue to unsettle the galaxy's core,
Jaya suggested, tracing her plan out carefully.
I will ensure the disruption spreads doubts about the Queen's capabilities. As governance falters, a strategically positioned alternative could seem most appealing, would it not?
Amidst murmurs of strategy, the Veil Walkers nodded.
And what of this alternative? Do you dare to propose yourself as the next sovereign power?
One asked, the question hanging venomously in the tense suspension between them.
Not directly, Jaya responded with pragmatism, but through facilitating your rise to influence, my own role becomes indispensable, and with indispensable power comes control, influence. I am the key that both shatters Adia's facade and reinforces your agenda. The chamber reverberated with their agreement, an unholy pact solidifying that braided darkness with intention. Together they clandestinely forged a plan to amplify disturbances with the key planetary hubs and thereby weave chaos more tightly into the fabric of the galaxy. The picture Jaya painted was one of dissent, breeding a void that only they could fill. As the meeting concluded, Jaya felt the weight of her ambition settle with satisfying heaviness over her shoulders. The gears were set into motion, and if orchestrated correctly, the kingdom would pivot towards choices shaped by the Shadow Coalition, streamlining her treacheries into one grand act. Power would seek her, not because she demanded it, but because it saw no alternative in the encroaching dark. Emerging from beneath the city into the moonlit night, she moved with practiced ease, her face worn with practiced impassivity. Every conceivable facet of her manipulations in play. Above her, stars spun silently in the void, chroniclers to plots bound by ancient liners of betrayal and ascendancy. That night, should fate have eyes, they turned under the watchful veil of stars that kept their secrets close. Chapter 14. Research into Ancient Rituals. In the quiet sanctuary of the palace's largest library, where sunlight streamed through stained glass depicting the galaxy's storied past, Queen Adia stood surrounded by scholars who had traveled from distant planets. Each was uniquely brought here by the burgeoning alliance and united under a common purpose: to decipher the ancient rituals that might harness celestial energies and stabilize the galactic anomalies currently causing unrest across the stars. The library itself was a repository of history, with shelves reaching the domed ceilings and filled with scrolls and tomes whose whispers seemed to echo the wisdom of ages. Adia, at the center of this learned assembly, embodied a blend of earnest curiosity and deep responsibility, a sovereign now intent on utilizing the past to guide the future. Thank you all for convening here. Adia addressed them. Her voice carried the confident yet inviting timbre of a leader ready to embrace knowledge, not merely for power, but for collective salvation. Today, we transcend the boundaries of our individual worlds to uncover the wisdom our ancestors have left for us. I believe within these teachings lies the key to reshaping our tumultuous skies. As the scholars nodded in agreement, murmurs of both respect and intrigue filled the air. To many, this was compelling evidence of a queen evolving. Adia had begun adapting her leadership to echo a cherished tenet found within the Zivo Celestial Codex itself: balance achieved through shared enlightenment. Among the most revered texts they approached first was a weathered tome detailing rituals said to harmonize the energies that flowed between planetary realms and star-aided galaxies. While these were records most rulers would keep locked away as measures of last resort, Adia was determined to unlock their restoration potential at the dawn of alliance and understanding. Scholar Amayechi, a known historian from the planet Ibeji with expertise in celestial linguistics, pointed out a particularly exquisite passage. Your Majesty, here it articulates historical convergences in astronomical accents, rituals aimed not at mitigating disaster post factum, but at aligning energies before destruction begins.
Intrigued, Adia leaned over the spread scroll to read the ancient symbols, resonating from a field of knowledge tethered to both science and sacredness in equal measure. This discovery seemed to consolidate everything she had learned from the Codex regarding unity and explored interactions, not as expressions of power, but as aids in galactic symphony. Eldria, an elder mage from Thalessa, contributed with a strangely melodic reverberation.
Each pattern speaks to both convergence and resonance. They demand movement together, a dance of stars itself. Through them, we must ensure our galaxies waltz in harmony.
Under their dual guidance, Adia's team delved further into the ancient passages, each page allowing Adia to forge deeper connections with both her heritage and those she governed. Here now was a measure of trust and electromagnetic capability, with Adia herself evolving from the solitary monarch influenced by tales of power to a figurehead in service of a grander familial cycle shared by everyone under the cosmic skies. The tasks ahead were indeed monumental, but bore momentum from Unity's pure distilled purpose. With each symbol decoded, each passage shared, this gathering marked a distinct moment in Adia's journey, the culmination of ancient energies, renewed alliance, and visionary reform, poised for divination in a coronation of stars, and a beacon radiating steadfastly against looming unrest. As this communal dance continued into the deep hours of the night, Adia immersed herself in her role not just as Queen of Tanga, but as a humble cosmic steward charged with an entrustment of ascendancy, intent on safeguarding the sacred dance of celestial power and lasting unity.
Chapter 15. Public Opposition.
The morning air of the capital buzzed with a restless energy, like the calm before the storm. In the streets, crowds coalesced, waves of agitated citizens whose once dormant fears had burgeoned into vocal dissent. The atmosphere, charged and volatile, became an arena for demonstrators, spurred into action by whispers, rumors, and well-placed insinuations sown by Jaya. Adia, having spent the earlier hours immersed in research with her scholars, was met with urgent commotion as she entered the main hall. The noise from the streets below reached her ears even from this high vantage, a jumble of demands and outrage.
This sudden disturbance,
Adia noted, listening to the reverberating anger.
Our efforts should have garnered trust, not suspicion and chaos.
Isan Remi joined her side, his expression a tempered mix of concern and perseverance.
Your Majesty, these are the seeds of panic and doubt, given intent and strength by those who wish to see you falter.
Adia's heart sank as she looked out towards the masses. From here, individual faces were indistinct, but the collective anger struck her with stark clarity. Only days ago, she had felt the echoes of change and unity blooming among the leaders and scholars she had rallied. But now, the clarity and hope she had woven felt fragile and distant. Jaya, slyly maintaining her outward appearance of support within the court, had surreptitiously rekindled their fears. The dissent served to nullify Adia's progress, disguising trust and accountability as indecision and weakness. Down below, several voices rang out, demanding decisive action, voicing their desperation at the persistent cosmic disturbances and what was perceived as Adia's wavering leadership. Some called for an immediate plan, others alarmingly clamored for alternative leadership, replaying Jaya's whispers with dangerous fervor. Adia felt the weight of leadership more than ever, as heavy and unforgiving as a tangible entity upon her shoulders.
How do I reassure them, Remi, when their fear is stilled by misinformation and impatience?
Her question pierced the heavy tension, despondency increasing with the rising tide of agitated voices.
"You persist, my queen,"
Remi answered with steadfast belief even amidst the turmoil.
"You face the storm with the same resolve and transparent commitment that initially earned their trust. Only then can you pierce through the shadow's illusion."
But despite Remi's encouragement, Adia couldn't shake the feeling of insufficiency. Her recent strategies of unity and collaboration with scholars, it all seemed futile against the vehement opposition and pervasive doubt. Feeling swayed in the tempest of turmoil, doubt saturated her heart. A spectral visitor whispered from darker corners of her mind, questioning her ability to lead, urging surrender to the apparent futility. And yet, Adia knew a simple truth. This moment, like a storm, would pass. It would give way to the crucial decisions shaping the essential nature of who she was meant to be, a ruler carving paths between power and empathy. With reluctance but necessity, Adia steeled herself for communication with the protesters. Much as she wished to pause and uncoil the manipulative threads surrounding her court from within, it was imperative to salvage the trust and expectations of the public now teetering on the threshold of insurrection. Summoning the courage from within herself, she moved, flanked by loyal advisors, to face the very human manifestations of despair that gathered below. Finding resolve within the lessons she had woven into her leadership, Adia approached the imperative dialogue, ready to resist defeat's seductive call, ensuring that no deception could unwind the tapestry of hope she had set out to create.
Chapter 16. Confrontation and Apology.
Stepping onto the dais overlooking the center of the crowded square, Queen Adia felt the full force of the assembled throng's tension, a mix of anger, fear, and weariness that hung heavy in the air. Each face before her bore the mark of the burdened times that had instilled doubt and despair in the heart of her people. Silence ripped outward as her presence captured their attention, replacing the cacophony of chants with an expectant hush. Adia's own heart echoed the quiet poised on their precipice of anxiety and resolve. She had not faced such an audience with words so significant, so deeply sifted from her core.
"I stand before you, not just as your queen, but as a servant of this realm,"
Adia began, her voice projecting across the square with both strength and tremor, edged with vulnerability.
"In these tumultuous times, I have made decisions that, with clarity and reflection, I see now come across as rigid and unyielding."
She paused, searching every eye that met hers, feeling the connection that strung this community together despite attempts to sever it.
"For that, I offer my deepest apologies. Leaders should guide with wisdom and humility, not solely with force. I acknowledge my faults in moments when my actions may have sown fear instead of assurance."
A murmur of surprise passed through the crowd, her unexpected candor breaking the hardened facade of resistance in some faces, softening eyes stilled by adversity. The silence became an instrument, vibrating with the potential for change, for the words to undo some of the fractures caused by lingering doubt. Adia continued with renewed confidence, yet candid in her aspirations.
"I ask all of you now, stand with me. Together, let us confront these cosmic anomalies, not just with strength, but with collective courage and understanding. The challenges we face are immense, but they do not overshadow the capabilities and resilience of our united spirit."
amongst the protesters, surprise melded with something deeper, an understanding, perhaps of a queen's genuine repentance, softened by her appeal to principles more ancient than any royal edict, those experiences shared by community, those brought through adversity, made common. A solitary commendation broke through the fabric of silence, louder than anticipated. "We will give you strength if you give us yours, Your Majesty," spoke out an elder with lines of wisdom etched in their visage. Others began to echo the sentiment, and the shift in tone was palpable, cascading through the congregation like a warming wave parting icy resolve. For Adia, it was more than melody in response, it was redemption, emboldening her heart alongside a dawning comprehension that leadership entwined not merely with authority alone, but with empathy, abundant and open. While skepticism remained, acknowledged in the wary glances and subdued murmurs, a newfound foundation of trust had been laid bare by her decisive humility. Through the sweeping arc of an apology, she sensed the fractured bonds mending, turning towards cautious support, a journey shared in tribulation, prepared for a unified horizon in kind. Adia felt relief mingling with responsibility, her moral pivot marked not by decrees etched in stone, but the evolution of a leader no longer merely atop a legacy, yet wholly formed in the embrace of new enlightenment, where the integrity of action swayed as prominently as stars themselves. As she departed back towards the sanctuary of deliberation, the air around her changed, not dissipating entirely the subsequent battles, but converging paths towards a strengthening resolve, newly awakened. Chapter 17. Veil Walkers Attack. The peace cultivated through Adia's heartfelt apology was short-lived. Mere days after the square witnessed the dawn of trust, the sky abruptly darkened above Tanga, an unnatural, foreboding eclipse that sent waves of panic rippling through the city. News quickly spread. The Veil Walkers, shadowy figures whose motives remained shrouded as their veils, had struck, weaving discord into the very fabric of the galaxy. The city was engulfed in chaos, power flickered, communications faltered, and a palpable tension gripped the air as celestial phenomena disrupted everyday life. The Veil Walkers had achieved their aim, setting the kingdom ablaze with panic and fear. Inside the palace, the urgency of the situation pulled Adia away from her reflective moment towards swift action. Her command hub buzzed with frantic voices, advisors and specialists grappling with the cosmic chaos spreading far and wide. Eyes turned to her for direction, trust placed cautiously on the foundation she had fought hard to rebuild. Lock down the critical systems and focus efforts on restoring communication, Adia instructed, her tone calm but firm. Her mind raced, not with fear but with the drive to protect her people. Each breath, each decision was infused with the commitment to overcome this test of leadership under hostile skies. Despite the gravity of the threat, Adia knew that isolation wasn't an option. She activated the emergency council meeting, calling forth the planetary leaders with whom bonds of nascent unity had recently been stirred. Appearing over holographic displays, their faces mirrored her own stern resolve. "This attack seeks to break us by turning our fears into reality," Adia addressed the gathered leaders, "but together we possess the strength to counteract these shadows attempting to divide us. Each of our worlds holds insights, technology, and wisdom. Let us utilize them fully, without hesitation." As the leaders agreed to pool their resources, exchanging vital information on the cosmic phenomena and technological innovations uniquely tailored by their respective planets, the gathering breathed life into Adia's pivotal approach, shared resilience through unity. Meanwhile, on the ground, Adia rallied her people, engaging with them directly, making her presence felt beyond the battlements of governance, towering walls. She addressed them not only as a figurehead, but as an ally steadfast in sharing the trials meted out by destiny's hands. In the following hours, collaborative efforts yielded progress, stabilizing systems, dispersing the darkness conjured by the Veil Walkers. It was a testament to a growing alliance knit by advanced sciences and mystics combined, a dedication resplendent under the same sky. For Adia, each decisive maneuver underscored the transformation of her leadership style, no longer bound purely by power, but magnified by unity. Through belief in collective action, she perceived power untethered from fear, but anchored by inspired courage, echoed in both courts and streets as her citizens rallied to her call. As the sun began to slowly re-emerge, its rays dismantled the eerie shadows, revealing a kingdom that had faced an ordeal and emerged not unscathed, but undeniable in strengthened resolve. It was clear the Veil Walkers had underestimated the art when united, a realization Adia carried steadfastly, preparing resolutely for battles yet to arise.
Chapter 18. Betrayal Uncovered.
After the cosmic disturbances settled and Tanga's response had proven its mettle, Queen Adia sat in the palace's private council chamber, reflecting on how unity overcame chaos. There was a hopeful air about the room, now quiet as she met with her closest advisors to plan their next steps. Despite recent challenges, they focused on building stronger alliances and securing communication channels to avoid future threats. Amongst the trusted faces, Adia glanced at Delegate Efe, who seemed unusually uneasy. His typical decisiveness was absent, replaced by a hesitance that she couldn't ignore.
"Your Majesty,"
Efe began. His voice carried an undercurrent of tension.
"There's something you must know, a truth that weighs heavily on my conscience."
The room hushed, all eyes turning to him with anticipation and concern.
"Please, go on,"
Adia urged gently, sensing that his words would bring forth something significant and possibly unsettling. He took a deep breath, aware of the gravity of his confession.
"I have learned something perilous. Jaya has been secretly meeting with the Veil Walkers. Their alliance is responsible for the recent chaos. They aim to undermine your rule."
Adia's heart skipped a beat as the shocking revelation crashed over her, mixing disbelief with a fierce sense of betrayal. She looked across the chamber where astonished faces mirrored her own shock.
"Do you have proof?"
Remi asked, maintaining his calm despite the tense atmosphere. Efe nodded solemnly.
"Yes, evidence confirming how she tried to drive a wedge between us, clouding judgment and dividing trust."
The enormity of this betrayal loomed large in Adia's mind, a calculated deception threatening everything her leadership stood for. The knowledge that someone so close had been sowing discontent and aligning with adversarial forces was a personal and political blow. Resolute in the face of this treachery, Adia's expression hardened with determination.
"This deception must be confronted and addressed. We cannot allow such treason to foster."
Realizing this urgency of the situation, she felt a shift within herself towards decisive action, fueled by the certainty of protecting her realm from corruption. As her plans quickly formed, Adia's commitment to truth and justice formed a new path forward, determined to root out betrayal and reaffirm the unity and strength that had carried them through adversity. With a heavy heart but clear purpose, Adia prepared to face this challenge, knowing that she would not only safeguard her throne, but also integrate this trial into the continuing journey of her leadership. one defined by courage, integrity, and a galaxy's resilient strength, shining brighter than any shadow cast by subterfuge.
Chapter 19. Preparing for the Ritual.
The discovery of Jaya's betrayal had given Adia a renewed sense of urgency and clarity. In the quiet hum of the palace's grand library, the heart of Tanga's accumulated knowledge, she convened with her closest allies and a select group of scholars. Each was resolute in purpose, understanding that the convergence of knowledge and spirit in this critical moment could determine the fate of the galaxy. A detailed map of constellations and celestial paths spread across a vast table in the center of the room, its intricate patterns a testament to the ancient knowledge carefully preserved over countless generations. The air was electric with anticipation and resolve, a tapestry of minds readying to weave a solution through action and insight.
"This is where we'll perform the ritual,"
Adia said, pointing to a secluded temple on Tranquil Peak, the highest and most spiritual site on Tanga. The significance of this location resonated through the planning, its alignment with cosmic nodes deemed crucial for the ritual's success. Scholar Amayechi, instrumental in deciphering the complex linkage between the celestial bodies, adjusted his spectacles as he explained further.
"The stars align with the equinox, a rare occurrence where the energies of creation and harmony are in perfect balance. It is this asymmetry we will harness, a chance perhaps the ancients foresaw in their wisdom."
Eldri, the mage, whose knowledge breached the arcane and observable, added with melodic purpose,
"Convergence requires us all, binding spells with equations, merging chants and equations to bridge unseen gaps in cosmic anomaly, restoring flow where it has clashed."
Around the table, voices joined in agreement, the sense of cooperation stretching beyond individuals, ennobling the vast venture as it edged closer towards realization. It was a crucial dance of harmony and risk, where each participant's knowledge was symphony and silence, a moment pregnant with potential. Adia's eyes swept the room, meeting with each ally, whose confidence in her and the plan lent her strength.
"This ritual represents more than a chance to bring balance. It is proof we stand not as singular voices, isolated and alone, but as a mighty chorus joined in pursuit of a greater good."
Preparations intensified. Amplifiers gathered the right frequencies. Sacred texts lay side by side with technoscryers, and every hand took part in readying provisions and protections needed for the ritual itself. Each task, imbued with an awareness of its gravity, brought everyone closer to the confrontation with cosmic mysteries stretching far beyond the mysteries of Tanga. As the chosen hour approached, the scholars and mages departed from Tranquil Peak, howling both their keenness and trepidation upon their ascendant path. Adia remained posed, a leader threading her purpose through this arc of hope, a beacon attuned to destiny's call and weighted resolve. Moonrise saw them assembling at the temple marked by sacred architecture, replicating celestial arcs, while gentle breezes carried lumi Tanga scents mingling with starlight overhead. Here, amidst these ethereal harmonies, they gathered the wings of old dreams, a collective breath poised for union through hospitality amongst galaxies, more grand than ever dreamt before, resting upon soil unyielding. In the rising pulse of energy around Tranquil Peak, the start of a critical chapter in cosmic myth approached. The weight of communal belief and deep-seated knowledge imbued the air, courage and conviction, buoyed by scholarly endeavor and ancestral rites, merged resolutely as history searched yet another verse, settling for a climactic night beneath immortal skies.
Chapter 20. Jaya's Desperation.
In the shadowed recesses of the palace where Jaya now sculled, tendrils of desperation snaked through her mind. Her intricate web of deceit was fraying. Revelations of her duplicity spread through the court like wildfire. With the cosmic alignment ritual poised to proceed, she knew her remaining grip on influence and her ambition for power were slipping irretrievably. Jaya's mind raced, calculating her remaining plays as daylight waned and the people of Tanga fixed their hopes onto the forthcoming celestial event. In these final moments leading up to the night of the ritual at Tranquil Peak, she needed to act swiftly and decisively. Determined, she maneuvered through secret passages beneath the city, heading towards the sacred grounds, with only the dimming light of stolen baffles to shield her silhouette. Her every step was fueled by an obsessive need to thwart Adia's growing authority, the raw resentment propelling her forward with the furious energy of someone with nothing left to lose. Reaching the base of Tranquil Peak, she saw the assemblage of scholars and mages amidst the wash of heavenly light pulling on sacred stones. Their preparations appeared thorough, a testament to a synergy her manipulations had failed to diminish. Enraged by her exclusion and the impending failure of her plotted schemes, Jaya enacted her final gamble. In her possession were rare sigils, stolen artifacts capable of disrupting arcane energies and allowing their wielder control over chaotic forces in the wrong hands. Her plan: sabotage the ritual and provoke intense cosmic disturbances that would shatter the unity Adia sought so relentlessly. As the final beams of dusk gave way to star-speckled night, Jaya approached with malevolent resolve. Her mind focused on the discord she intended to unveil. But as she stood concealed at the edge of the gathering, poised to unleash the crippling spell, her eyes fell upon the cohesion shared by Adia and those around her. They were committed not just through duty, but through a shared belief in their combined future, an unyielding counterweight to the ruin she had in mind. It was here, as she hesitated for the first time, that Adia's gaze pierced the shadow where Jaya hid. In meeting the queen's eyes, Jaya saw not anger nor betrayal mirrored there, but a glimpse of recognition and sincere disappointment. "Jaya, turn away from this path." Adia's voice carried not harsh with accusation, but steady in earnest. "There is no redemption or legacy found within this destruction. Stand with us now, with your world, and what strength remains can be part of something greater than we alone could ever conceive." For a fraught moment, Jaya balked at her own internal schism, the agony of a conflict laid bare by the choice to grasp or release her past, blood-bound aspirations. Would she repent in the light of genuine unity, or does she dare cast all to oblivion? In this noted crescendo before the climactic rite, open-ended mysteries and cosmic phenomena, the stakes poised at galaxy's edge, Jaya stood at a crossroads unknown even to the stars. It was her decision, entangled within the greater weave and twist of destiny's fruition, pushing towards light or shadow beneath the cosmos' gaze. Chapter 21. The ritual begins. As moonlight splashed silver across Tranquil Peak, the anticipation in the air was almost palpable. People from Tanga and distant worlds had gathered around the sacred site or tuned in from far away, all holding their breath for the alignment ritual. In the center stood Queen Adia, calm and resolute. After many challenges, this moment symbolized everything she and her allies had worked for. Surrounding her were scholars, mages, trusted advisors, and visiting dignitaries, each bringing their own knowledge and hope to the circle. The constellations overhead aligned perfectly, marking the time for the ritual as unmistakably right. Wearing a ceremonial garb that embodied her ancestors' symbols of unity and power, Adia took her place at the center and heart of the assembly. Here, the flow of energies would manifest through words, symbols, and focused intent. Adria and Amayechi, key members of her team, stepped forward in sync, holding sacred texts. Their chants filled the air with cosmic tones, intertwining with meteoric patterns in the sky, a celestial symphony mirroring the gathering below. Adia raised the sacred scepter, forged from luminous materials and filled with ancestral wisdom. To the convergence point marked by intricate glyphs, its tip caught the moonlight, sending it cascading over the assembly like a gentle beam. "Here and now, we unite past with destiny," Adia announced, her voice strong and confident amid the swirling energy. This marked the beginning of a pivotal moment, teetering between hope and uncertainty. The air grew thicker with energy. The stones vibrated faintly in response to an ancient call. As power surged through the moonlit night, it flowed through Adia's fingers in harmonious currents, guided by clarity and purpose. The light around them grew brighter, outlining each participant against the sky and creating a scene that told a silent story of unity. The whole galaxy, watching in anticipation, steadied as the forces balanced through their collective will. Yet everyone understood the risk involved. By channeling such powerful cosmic energies, Adia and her allies were gambling with their very existence. Death's shadow lingered on the edge of their awareness, but it was this vulnerability that fueled their unified resolve and ambition to set things right. Subtle glimmers danced among lanterns, each moment carrying them closer to the ritual's climax, a testament to the strength in unity. As energy crescendoed, Adia held firm, projecting her faith and intention clearly. Her unwavering conviction reassured those who looked on, sparking a trust that transcended imagination. The constellations above began to resonate with a connection, bridging both ground and sky, intertwining ancient lore with lived history. In this singular, breathtaking moment, Adia led the ritual toward its peak, hearts open to the promise of a destiny unfolding under the cosmic gaze.
Chapter 22. Jaya's Final Stand.
As the ritual at Tranquil Peak approached its climax, the air buzzed with luminous energy, light intertwined with the ancient stones, weaving a tapestry of celestial and earthly harmony. But a shadow disrupted this peace. Jaya, her ambition as dark as the void, lingered on the edges, driven by a need for power. Watching Adia channeling the shared strength of history and unity ignited Jaya's anger. Determined not to be outdone, she broke into the sacred circle, her intrusion causing a dissonance in the ritual's harmony. Her presence, like a jarring note in a symphony, sent shockwaves through the gathering assembly. Cries erupted as Jaya's betrayal became clear, but the citizens and allies held strong in unity. The true danger was the chaos she sought to unleash upon the ritual.
"Stop this madness, Jaya!"
Adia's voice cut through the turmoil, firm but sincere. She understood the critical balance their world teetered upon, between stability and the brink of destruction. Unmoved, Jaya pressed forward, her eyes alight with desperate fervor.
"Step aside, Adia,"
she commanded, driven by her twisted vision of freedom.
"Power isn't meant to be shared, it must be seized."
With those words, she revealed an artifact, releasing bound sigils eager to fracture the delicate balance Adia had crafted. The air trembled, energies straying from their aligned paths. But Adia, drawing strength from her bond with the soil and the stars, and with the support of her allies, fought back to maintain stability.
"Jaya, you've forgotten our purpose, a harmony that transcends single rulers. Do you know the cost of what you are demanding?"
For a moment, the light bent to Jaya's will, but Adia and her allies dug deep into their resolve, pouring their shared purpose into preserving the ritual's integrity. United, their resistance formed a wave of resilient defiance, not through conquest, but through protective unity. As their cohesion strengthened, Jaya's artifact faltered and broke, unable to sustain the chaos it had unleashed. Jaya staggered under the shattered force of her own aggression, watching power slip through her fingers like dust. Adia, breathless under the cosmic forces swirling around them, stepped forward with compassion and finality in her voice. "Enough, Jaya," she said, her words echoing across the space, offering both an end and a path to reconciliation. Jaya's resolve crumbled as the ritual bound even her defiance into its unity. An unspoken struggle flickered in her eyes, her ambition grasping futility as reality settled upon her. With harmony restored, Adia lowered her scepter, releasing past grievances to embrace a renewed purpose with each ally beside her. The ritual continued its majestic arc as the stars above whispered their approval, encouraging a shared faith that would define the galaxy's future, forging in adversity but united in its promise.
Chapter 23: Cosmic Realignment.
As the dust from Jaya's interference settled, Tranquil Peak returned to its radiant harmony. Adia stood firm at the center, feeling the cosmic energies align with her newfound resolve and leadership. The ritual, momentarily disrupted but not broken, resumed with a newfound strength, its participants united and energized by overcoming the recent division. Adia, drawing strength from this unity, lifted the sacred scepter again, her intent perfectly aligned with the stars above. Closing her eyes in deep understanding, she felt the gentle hum growing. Filling the air with warmth and light, the dissonant energies began to blend into a beautiful display, tracing ancient patterns across the starlit sky. Adia's leadership shone through each movement, reflecting her transformed heart that now embraced unity over mere power. A shared breath passed through the circle, connecting everyone to the powerful flow of energy. The air trembled with cosmic threads weaving themselves into a harmonious tapestry, calming the once turbulent galaxy. Above them, the night sky performed its breathtaking spectacle, stars aligned into a radiant mosaic of light, resonating with the symphony of past, present, and future. It mirrored the renewal of Adia's leadership, a rebirth where the galaxy, once chaotic, found peace in unity. As celestial bodies settled into a serene rhythm, the chaotic disturbances quieted down, promising harmony within the universe. The ritual, having reached its peak, celebrated a shared triumph, moving spirits toward a harmonious future. Opening her eyes, Adia understood that her journey had always led to this moment, not just as a queen guiding her planet, but as a vital part of a greater cosmic story that embraced compassion and decisive action. Stepping forward, Adia approached Jaya, who now stood in revealed vulnerability. There was an opportunity for reconciliation and growth, born from the shared trials they had faced. Surrounding Adia, her people celebrated, grateful for the renewed hope and the dawn of a fresh beginning. The cosmic disturbances, which once threatened the balance, faded away, leaving a universe readjusted to peace and stability. Adia's story, previously one of isolated power, had evolved into one of collective strength, guided by the wisdom of the stars. It became a legacy of sacrifice and shared revelations, promising a future where all stories converged into a harmonious existence. On this day, a new era of unity emerged, its value clear against the backdrop of the galaxy's history, a future underscored by the peace and joy that accompany true understanding and shared destiny.
Chapter 24: A New Dawn of Understanding.
As dawn broke over Tranquil Peak, painting the sky with pink and gold, Adia stood amidst the calm after the ritual. The cosmic alignment had worked its magic, bringing peace and order where there had been chaos. The disturbances had settled into a gentle, stable rhythm. Around her, scholars and allies moved with quiet purpose. Some attended to the participants who were weary but joyful. Others simply enjoyed the satisfaction of success. The air buzzed with a collective sense of achievement and an understanding of the struggles that had paved the way. Feeling the cool morning breeze, Adia took a breath to reflect. She looked across the scene before her, noticing the quiet conversations, the shared relief, and the natural harmony that seemed to flow through the ground beneath her feet. Her gaze drifted to the horizon where the first light of day touched the night's retreating shadows. In this introspective moment, the weight of her journey became clear, a tapestry of errors and triumphs shaped by doubt and conviction. Throughout her trials, a truth had gradually dawned on Adia. Her reign had begun in the shadow of her father's legacy, driven by a belief that strength required control and solitary rule. But here, enlightened by what they had accomplished together, she realized that true essence of leadership lay in empathy, connection, and shared purpose. The idea of dictatorial power now seemed distant, a reminder of her past self that she had since outgrown. She understood that real power was not in imposing her will, but in unifying, bridging divides, building trust, and being a steady guide when the path grew uncertain. This realization brought a calm clarity to her heart. It was not about giving up authority, but about wielding it wisely. Like a dance between ruler and people, much like the cosmic balance they had restored. The certainty of this understanding settled over her, comforting and promising. Adia could now see that she was capable of guiding Tanga through both cosmic and political challenges, building a lasting strength based on unity. With hope and gratitude in her heart, Adia turned back toward her people, wearing a quiet smile. From this moment onward, her leadership would not only reflect learned traditions, but would also embrace the hearts and voices of her people, securing her place among the stars as a queen, not just by birth, but by understanding. In this peaceful understanding, past errors transformed into seeds of wisdom, promising growth and a future that could mend and unite with harmony and love.
Chapter 25. Jaya's Fate.
With the turmoil of the cosmos disturbances resolved and the dawn casting a gentle light over Tanga, Queen Adia turned her attention to one final matter, the fate of Jaya, the former ally whose ambition had almost torn the galaxy apart, now stood apprehensive and isolated, her influence shattered by her duplicity. Summoned to the Grand Chamber, Jaya faced Adia and the Council. The atmosphere was solemn, reflecting not just judgment, but the weight of lessons learned through the recent trials. Jaya's earlier confidence was replaced by an uneasy resignation, knowing her schemes had failed and left her without allies or cause. Adia, seated with the authority of both ruler and beneficiary of newfound understanding, regarded Jaya not with anger, but with contemplation. Here was a chance to reinforce the path she had chosen, a path defined by unity and empathy, rather than vengeance and division.
Jaya,
Adia began, her voice calm and resonant.
You stand before us, having attempted to manipulate and sow chaos for your own gain. Such actions cannot be ignored.
The council listened intently, awaiting their queen's decision. In this moment, Adia chose to reflect her new philosophy, keenly aware of the impact her choice would have on the kingdom's future.
Yet, in this pivotal time, as we forge a new way forward, I choose to honor the spirit of mercy and growth. You will not face the harshest punishment. Instead, I offer you a chance for redemption.
A murmur ran through those gathered, surprise at the clemency offered. Jaya too was taken aback, glancing up to meet Adia's steady gaze.
"You will live among those you have wronged," Adia continued, "and work to build the trust you have broken. Let your efforts reflect a commitment of change for yourself as well as our people."
Jaya, seeing the sincerity in Adia's decision, felt a mixture of relief and shame. Her path, now redirected, was out of her obligation to mend the rifts she had created, highlighting the difference between her ambition and Adia's transformative leadership. In that resolution, the kingdom bore witness not just to the downfall of a would-be usurper, but to the reinforcement of values rooted in community and compassion. Adia's choice heralded a governance where even its most fallen members were afforded a chance to contribute to the shared tapestry of their society. As Jaya left the chamber to begin her new journey, a renewed sense of harmony settled over the court, cementing Adia's place as a ruler who led not by power or fear, but through the potent embrace of collective strength and understanding. The legacy of her leadership, still young, promised a future shaped by choices grounded in empathy, embracing the chance for each onlooker transformed anew.
Chapter 26. Rebuilding and Reforming.
The morning sun lit up the Grand Assembly Hall in Tanga's palace, where leaders from across the galaxy had gathered once more. This time, the air was filled with anticipation, and not of conflict, but of renewal. Queen Adia stood before them, ready to share her vision for the future, a future rooted in the insights she had gained from the recent challenges and triumphs. Adia began, her voice filled with warmth and conviction.
"Friends and allies, the trials we faced have taught us invaluable lessons. They have shown me the strength we possess when we work together, and the importance of listening to all voices, not just the loudest or most powerful."
With a calm yet determined gaze, she continued,
"In light of these realizations, I am announcing significant reforms to our governance. We will establish a system that encourages open dialogue, where every voice can be heard and where decisions are made with transparency."
The leaders nodded, understanding the weight of her words. These reforms meant relinquishing some of her own power to create a more balanced and equitable system, a commitment to genuine cooperation over solitary authority.
"First, we will institute open council debates, allowing representatives from all parts of the galaxy to participate actively in decision-making processes,"
Adia declared.
"No longer will a few voices dominate our councils. Instead, they will serve as forums for diverse perspectives and shared wisdom."
Adia then addressed the distribution of power.
"We will also distribute leadership roles more broadly, ensuring that governance is not centralized but reflective of our collective strength. This distribution will not only prevent the rise of unchecked ambition, but also empower every community to contribute to our shared destiny."
As she spoke, the energy in the room shifted, a palpable sense of hope taking root. The reforms Adia proposed promised a fresh start, providing a structure that mirrored her evolved leadership philosophy, one of empathy, unity, and shared responsibility.
"In these reforms lies our path forward, a path towards a more inclusive, resilient, and interconnected galaxy,"
Adia concluded, her voice resonating in the hearts of those gathered.
"Together, we will build a future that honors both our differences and our common goals."
Her announcement met with applause, the sound of a chorus of agreement and renewed commitment. By setting these changes in motion, Adia was not just reshaping Tanga's government, but redefining its very approach to leadership. a living testament to how adversity had heralded transformation. With this new equilibrium laid before them, the galaxy stood poised at the dawn of a brighter era, a community of worlds united in purpose, driven by the lessons learned and the promise of continued growth together.
Chapter 27.
Amidst the tranquil gardens of the palace, bathed in a golden glow of a setting sun, a solemn ceremony unfolded. The air was still, carrying with it a sense of reverence, as Queen Adia and the people of Tanga gathered to honor those who had been lost during the recent upheaval. The ceremony was a chance to pause together, reflecting on the trials they had endured and the sacrifices made along the way. A large monument stood at the center of the gathering, inscribed with the names of the fallen, a lasting tribute to courage and perseverance. Adia, dressed in simple yet elegant attire, approached the monument. Her presence was comforting, her expression filled with empathy and understanding as she faced her people. She wanted them to know she shared their grief, and through their collective strength, they would find healing.
Today, we remember those we have lost.
Queen Adia began, her voice a gentle balm over the gathering.
Their bravery and sacrifice have paved the way for the peace and unity we cherish now. Though they are not with us, their legacy lives on in every step we take forward.
As she spoke, the crowd listened quietly, unified in their shared sorrow, yet comforted by the solidarity of being together. Families and friends held candles, their gentle flicker a symbol of hope and remembrance, mingled as one.
Our path is forever changed by their presence and the deep courage they showed.
Adia continued with a touch of emotion in her voice.
Through them, we are reminded of the beauty that lives in resilience and the light that shines through when we bind ourselves to each other.
The ceremony was simple yet heartfelt. Elders shared words of wisdom passed down through generations, while children placed flowers at the monument's base. The community sang quietly, voices entwined with the breeze, creating a harmony that honored both loss and life. As Adia moved among the crowds, offering personal words and comfort to those grieving, it became clear that her leadership had grown into something deeply compassionate. She wasn't just a queen governing her realm, but a member of a shared family bound by true understanding and mutual care. The ceremony concluded with a moment of silence, the stillness filled with gratitude and remembrance. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of twilight, a canvas that promised new beginnings amidst cherished memory. For Adia and the kingdom, the commemorative event reinforced the bond between ruler and people, strength grown in the soil of empathy and perseverance. As the people of Tanga slowly dispersed, the certainty held was one of a future built upon remembrance's foundation, steady and vibrant, ever ready to embrace both challenges and joys as one united fabric of life.
Chapter 28. A New Dawn for Tanga.
As the first light of the new day kissed the horizon of Tanga, painting it in hues of promise and renewal, the galaxy stood on the brink of a reimagined future. Queen Adia, at the heart of this vibrant dawn, surveyed the land from the towering terraces of the palace, where her journey of transformation had begun. Surrounded by her allies, friends who had become family through trials and triumphs, Adia felt the warmth of solidarity infuse her being. Together, they witnessed the realms they governed moving forward, cradled within the nurturing essence of peace and growth, a testament to their collective resilience and shared vision. The changes she had enacted, grounded in empathy and inclusivity, breathed life into new avenues, a governance style where each voice was valued and every decision echoed with the wisdom gathered from diverse hearts and minds throughout the galaxy. Throughout Tanga, citizens engaged in lively markets and bustling communities, the air alive with innovation and everyday joys. Leaders from neighboring planets sent word of their own thriving transformations, inspired by Tanga's example of unity and open counsel. Adia turned to Isan Remi, her trusted advisor who stood steadfast by her side. His presence was a comforting reminder of the galaxy's enduring legacy. His eyes filled with pride for what they had built and the journey they embarked on. "Together we have ushered a new era of shared hope," Adia reflected aloud, her gaze sweeping across the thriving lands. "This kingdom promises endless possibility." Remi nodded, a calm wisdom as enduring as the stars reflected in his expression.
"You have forged a path illuminated by understanding and compassion, Your Majesty, principles that will continue to guide our people well."
In the peaceful tranquility of the morning, every heart beat with optimism. The galaxy was once again a vibrant tapestry of interconnected life, woven strong with threads of transformation. As Adia looked forward, her vision aligned with the newfound dynamism offered by this emerging age. The hardships of the past added profound depth to this moment, reminding her that true leadership was not simply about command, but about nurturing potential through connection and courage. Standing among those who had resiliently walked this path with her, Adia embraced their shared horizon, a beacon glowing with renewed commitment and unyielding unity. In this exhilarating dawn, Tanga faced the future with open hearts and determined spirits, ready to embrace everything that lay ahead, a testament to a kingdom and its people forever transformed by the lessons of their journey, now bound in eternal fellowship under the infinite canvas of starry skies, promising an uncharted future abundantly bright.
Epilogue: The Celestial Chronicles.
Years had rolled away like gentle tides, and the Olorun Galaxy had long since settled into a flourishing epoch characterized by peace and collective strength. Within the hallowed halls of the great library of Tanga, historians and scholars gathered to unravel the tapestries of time, speaking of legendary events etched into the Celestial Chronicles. These knowledgeable stewards of history sat amidst ancient scrolls and illuminated tomes, their studies rich with trials and triumphs dating back to the era of Queen Adia, the sovereign whose leadership had become a glowing beacon in the galaxy's long narrative.
Queen Adia's reign marked a definitive shift in how leadership was perceived and practiced,
remarked one historian, his hands gently caressing the time-worn pages of a chronicle transcribed generations ago.
Her decision, born from both adversity and revelation, realigned not just the cosmic scales but the very essence of governance across the galaxy.
The scholars nodded in agreement, reflecting on the enduring impact of Adia's transformation from a young monarch burdened by her father's legacy to a ruler celebrated for empathy and unity. Her story was now inseparably woven into the galaxy's rich lore, a pattern visible in the just and prosperous societies extant in their current day. Her reforms, expanded councils, inclusive debates, and distributed power had set a standard adopted far beyond Tanga's borders. Progress and prosperity had followed in their wake, honoring the spirit of cooperation and compassion she had expertly challenged.
Their alignment with the ancient rituals not only restored cosmic harmony, but recognized the celestial balance mirroring the needed equilibrium in governance.
Another scholar mused, eyes alight with speculative wonder.
This era has truly demonstrated how intertwined our destinies remain with the unyielding fabric of the cosmos.
Voices resonant with the recounting of great legends spoke of known struggles and triumphs, illuminating the window to a past shared by all generations, illuminating time as both guide and reminder, a thread constantly weaving connections between people, planets, and stars. The scholars paused to consider the cyclical nature of history, underscoring how past lessons continuously informed future actions. a dance mirrored by celestial bodies traversing eternal orbits. Queen Adia's legacy proved that true strength lay in nurturing bonds that transcended individual motives, encouraging blossoming in the collective virtue. With this enduring legacy steadfastly guiding their deliberations, the Knowledge Keepers knew that the Chronicles lent wisdom not just to glimpse the past, but to chart the future's promises, enlightening leaders yet to ascend horizons unseen. Quiet optimism, buoyed by acknowledgement, illuminated their scholarly gathering, every reflection forming part of the celestial chronicles that would forever celebrate lives united, dignities restored, new dawns envisaged, and transcendental transformations beheld under shared skies in their galaxy, lasting within destiny's cosmic embrace, shared by the Olorun Galaxy, both present and eternal.
End of Book 1. Crown of Cosmos. The Sovereign Ring of Olorun.